Oh, for sure. The rivalries in those days were between Altona Winkler were quite fierce. Uh, and in those days, there wasn't much else going, so when there was a hockey game, the arenas were full. And yeah, there was also rivalries in those days between Altona and St. Jean. I remember one playoff series with St. Jean. We went 7 games, and we had an arena that packed in 2,000 people, with no seats. I mean, this was all standing room, and so that was a lot of people in a small town arena. I mean, there were old rinks. Pilot Mound had an old rink. Carmen had an old rink. Certainly the Altona rink that time was, well, we thought was generally quite new, but in this day it was old. And yeah, they've pretty much all been replaced. Morden had an old rink. And for some years we played in Oakville, and they certainly had an old rink as well. And Oakville had a lot of former Portage Terrier junior players playing there, and so they usually had a very strong team. I think probably our own was probably what we enjoyed most, because it was generally brighter, and so I think we enjoyed it there most. It was built in the 50s, early in 1950, and the first season was 1951 when we played in it. I mean, it was adequate at the time, but originally it had a little lean-to waiting room where you got your skates on, and later on there was an actual waiting room and dressing rooms added, and then we were also one of the first teams to put in artificial ice, because in those days many times the last few games in a playoff series would be very slushy. And one playoff series we actually finished in Winnipeg because the ice was all turned to mush out in the country. So then we set about building artificial ice plant in our arena, and nobody seemed to think that this was affordable. And so I was running the Maroons at the time, and so we needed to raise a certain amount of money to do this. And so the town wouldn't do it, so I went and got 25 businesses to sign a note at the bank guaranteeing the loan that we made, and we put in artificial ice. I mostly was already involved with playing or managing when I was watching a lot of hockey, because prior to that I was on the farm. So my early recollection is listening Saturday night to Foster Hewitt, and that's on the farm. We got electricity in 1948, and that's when we got a radio, and I followed NHL hockey ever since.